Hello, welcome back, geometry students, to trigonometry lesson 2. Um, if you have a printer available, I suggest to print this worksheet out. The link is on Schoology, and write down notes as you're watching this video. If you don't have a printer, you can actually also just write down notes in a piece of paper. It's going to be the same thing. Now, this lesson 2, is going to be focused on finding a missing side. And we can use these trig ratios we've been working with to find the missing side in a triangle. So just follow along. I'm going to be working with this little box here. It says, in a right triangle, if you have angle, one angle besides the right angle and one side, you can solve for any other side. So if you have a right triangle and all you know is an angle and one side, well, that's enough information to actually figure out what all the other sides are. And I'm going to brief you through the steps on how to do this. And the steps are straightforward, and I'm going to zoom into it just so that you can see clearly. The first step is simple. You need to, and you've been practicing this step. Label your triangle. This is the reason why we've been practicing this so much. Label your triangle, meaning what's your opposite, what's your adjacent, and what's your hypotenuse. Okay? After you label your triangle, you want to identify what trig ratio to use, right? And that goes into the SOHCAHTOA stuff. Am I going to use sine? Am I going to use cosine? Or am I going to use tangent? Okay? Once you've identified that, you're going to go ahead and set up an equation and then solve. So yes, this section is a little math heavy, but if you follow along, you're gonna do fine. You already know me. I would not leave you behind, and I would not give you something that I knew you were not capable of doing. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at the first example right here, number 1. We're given this triangle here. And right off the bat, you can notice that we know one angle and we know a side. Let's go ahead and follow the steps given here to solve for the missing side, which is this x here. We're trying to solve for x. We want to know, well, what is this? Step 1, label your triangle. So the angle that we're given here is just 30 degrees. So I'm going to mark 30 degrees. And just like you've been doing, label them. Right off the bat, I know that this is going to be my opposite side. Identify your right angle, because that's going to help you figure out which one is your hypotenuse. And the side directly next to your angle, well, that's just your adjacent. Be very careful with this, because if you mess the labeling up, everything is going to be off. So step 2 is identify what trig ratio you're going to use. So this is where your SOHCAHTOA comes in hand. So I'm going to write it down. SOHCAHTOA. You're going to use only one of these. And what's going to help you identify which one to use is what's given to you. So if you can see here, we know that this is 186 feet. So we know what the hypotenuse is, right? We know what the hypotenuse is. So the trig ratio we want to use has to include one of these hypotenuse. You see right here in the tangent, has nothing to do with the hypotenuse. So I'm going to go ahead and just erase that one. It means that we're not going to use it. It's out of the way. Sorry, tangent, not this time. So we're left with the sine and cosine. Which one is the one you're going to use? Well, again, look at what you know, or look at what you're trying to find. You're trying to find x, right? And x represents the adjacent side. Looking at your trig ratios here, the one that also has an adjacent is this one. So that basically means that for this problem, we're going to be using cosine to figure out what the missing side is, okay? So remember, this ka just means cosine of some degrees equals to your adjacent over your hypotenuse. And based on the triangle given, you can kind of see already. The adjacent we labeled here is x, right? I'm going to put it here, it's x. And the hypotenuse is 186 feet. And on the triangle, we're given this is 30 degrees. So this is just 30. So I'm going to rewrite all of this stuff below. Instead of putting cosine of 30, I'm just going to put cos. It means cosine. The adjacent we said was x, and the hypotenuse is 186. Now, believe it or not, you know how to solve this already. Remember, the cosine of 30 is just a number, but we can actually turn it into a fraction. If we put this over 1, now we have a fraction equaling a fraction. Think back. How do you solve for a fraction equals to a fraction? If you said cross multiplication, you're correct. See, remember, you can cross multiply. Cross multiply. Again, this means, and I'm going to do the work here on the side, that we're going to multiply the cosine of 30 times, well, what's the number we're going to multiply it with? Oh, yeah, the 186. And that's going to be, remember, I'm getting this from this. And that's going to be equal to 1 times x. This is just solving proportions, people. I'm going to do the easiest side, which is going to be this side. 1 times x is just x. Now, this is when the problem arises, because you're like, wait a second, what is cosine of 30? If you have a calculator, you will notice that there's a cosine button on it. Like most of you, you probably don't have a calculator, and you probably want to use the calculator on your phone. So I'm actually going to show you how to do that. I'm going to use a calculator on my app, right? We want to find out what the cosine of 30 is. So if you open up your calculator app, you want to go ahead and we're looking for the cosine of 30, right? I'm going to put 30 first, and then literally just touch the button here that says cosine. Bam. As soon as you do that, it gives you what the cosine of 30 is. It's this big number, 0.86602544037, right? I care about the first 4 numbers. So when I write down what the cosine of 30 is, I'm going to put 0.866. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Based on this, here we go. This is 0.866. This is still 186. Now what you want to do is simply just multiply these two numbers. They're right next to each other. Remember, parentheses means multiplication. So again, I'm going to use my calculator again. I'm going to multiply 0.866 by 186. Let me see. 0.866 times 186. 161.076. So 161.076. And that equals x. And you're done. That's literally it. The difficult part about these is the fact that you now have to figure out what this is, but if you have a calculator, you're able to do it. Let's go ahead and do the second one, and then you will be able to do the practice problems. Again, using the same steps as before, first thing you want to do is label your triangle. So right here, we're given this 44 degrees. Label the triangle using that information. Okay, I know that this side is going to be my opposite. Identify my right angle. That's going to go ahead and show me what my hypotenuse is. And then whatever's left over is just my adjacent side. I'm also going to write down my trig ratios, my SOHCAHTOA. And then I'm going to figure out, well, which one is the one that I'm going to use? SOHCAHTOA. Based on this triangle, we know that this is 18 inches, so we know the hypotenuse. We're trying to figure out x, which is your opposite. So again, I want one that has opposite and hypotenuse. So based on this, you can see that sine is the trig ratio that has both of them. That's what we want. We want both of them. So sorry, cosine and tangent, we don't need you for this round. Maybe again, maybe in another problem. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and just do the work here. Now remember, so just means the sine of something equals to your opposite. Let me color coordinated. Equals to your opposite over your hypotenuse. And we just labeled our hypotenuse as 18 and our opposite as x. So, and then we know that the degrees is 44. So I'm going to go ahead and write it nicer here in the bottom. We're going to have the sine, and again, I'm just going to abbreviate it. The sine of 44 degrees equal as x over 18. And again, we're still, it's like solving for proportions. I'm going to make the sine of 44 into a fraction by just putting it over 1. And remember your butterfly method. Yeah, cross multiply. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to do the butterfly for you just in case you were missing it. There it is. Oh, okay. And I'm going to do the work on the side. So this basically means that I'm going to get the sine of 44 and I'm going to multiply it by 18. And that's going to equal to 1 times x. And the right hand side is the easiest because 1 times x is just x, right? Again, don't struggle with what this is, just use the calculator, right? We're looking for the sine of 44. So I'm going to go ahead and again bring up my calculator. I'm going to put 44. I'm going to touch the sine button, and it gave me what the sine of 44 is. 0.6946. So 0.6946. So this is just going to equal to 0.6946. Okay, and I'm going to multiply it by 18. Use your calculator, preferably the one on your phone, and just multiply these two numbers now. 0.6946, 0.6946 times 18, and that gives me the answer of 12.5028, 12.5028, and that's x. You can just leave your answer like this. You can also put 12.502, 12.5. It's all the same thing as long as you get something like this answer. Okay, so that concludes this lesson. As long as you follow these 4 steps and you're very careful with your labeling and which trig ratio to use, you're going to be fine. Again, if you have any questions or any problems, just email us and we will get back to you as fast as we can. Other than that, go ahead and try to do the practice problems now, and good luck.